Welcome to the Dad Bod Podcast with your host, Corey. Without any other further ado, let's get into part 2 of 3 with my interview with the wonderful Erica. Hope you guys enjoy.
One, because they're like, whoa, that's 200 years ago. Like they don't get
Yeah.
it. And so let me ask you this, because we talk about like you living in the South and you living in deep South. Like prior to 2020, because you did touch upon this, you talked about not getting involved in racism.
Yeah.
Let's get one thing perfectly clear. I don't judge. I think you and I have been friends enough long enough. You know, I don't judge, nor do I cast any sort of judging. I understand what you're saying, because I do think when you're a Black person trying to survive in a predominantly white area, you're trying not to rock the boat, because you realize very quickly you're the only one. And you also realize very quickly that crowd will turn against you real quick. So I understand that. But prior to 2020 and prior to the large amount of civil unrest that we have seen unfold, did you, and I think you may have alluded to this, but I don't want to speak for you, so this is why I'm asking. Did you feel a certain amount of guilt for not speaking out for things that you were forced to swallow as far as race?
I didn't. I will say I do not feel guilty about who I was at that time or what I felt or what I did. I don't feel any guilt. And I can say I don't feel any guilt because it's never, when I say that like I was ignorant towards that, I never denied the fact that I was Black. I always knew that I had to work 10 times harder than the next person. I always knew there was going to be adversity against me, but it was more of like I never fully accepted it because, like I said, I've worked at a school, I've been there for 10 years where I've had so much luck, so to speak, and that I've had a good Black privilege, if that even exists in this world. Like I said, where I am in my group of friends, like I've always been able to be me, like even going back to running or, friends want to do virtual race, I had no problem saying, I'm not signing up for that race because that medal has a white chick on it and I don't need a medal with a white chick. So, and that was, 2016, 2017 time frame. And so it wasn't so much that, I feel guilty about not speaking up. And it's just because back then I wasn't truly educated on a lot of things. I wasn't fully educated on Black Lives Matter and how things work, because what you got to understand where I'm at in Dallas, when all that kind of went down and Black Lives Matter was coming predominant, we had a lot of pushback here, because what we had in Dallas was during the Black Lives Matter protest, we had that sniper that shot 7 police officers. And so, and our media is different. And so, yeah, I should have taken the time. I should have, could have, would have, but I didn't. And that's just what it is. So I never thought that any of those killings of those innocent Black people, like Trayvon Martin or anything like that it was justified. I never suddenly thought that was okay. But I'm like, okay, why are we having this Black Lives Matter protest and we're having a sniper that's shooting people? Because I have no problem saying I support good cops. I have no problem saying that because I do think there are some good ones. But those two things together, it's kind of like, I'm not down for this. The Dallas protests of Black Lives Matter were not very innocent. And it goes back to what we talked about is these people have come so far and it takes one idiot to ruin all the work. And so in my perspective, that sniper, I get he was angry. I get this. Like my sister was just like, he was right. I'm like, no, he was not right. Because you don't know the viewpoints of those officers he shot and killed who don't get to go home to their families. He wasn't right. And it's like all that put together. I'm like, I don't want any part of this. I'm not interested. I don't want to hear it. But if I hear someone say all lives matter to me, I don't have a problem stopping and letting you know, no, boo. So when the time was right, I still stood up for it. But it's like I never went out of my way to go stand up for it, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, and there's two things. One, I want to applaud you because I want to applaud your honesty. And I think a lot of times, especially in the past year and a half, which is so weird to say the year and a half, but in the past year and a half, is a lot of people have become very good on either side of the fence. have become very good at thumping their chest and just being like, blah, 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 blah. And no one being like, well, you know what? Maybe before this, I didn't know a lot.
Yeah.
And so I didn't take the time, and I took the time to educate myself and did. So first thing, I want to applaud that. Secondly, I'm only laughing because
Lord,
behind this, you and I have had this conversation behind the scenes.
uh-huh.
Before that time, and even as that civil unrest started to happen, how often did you find yourself, and even now, do you find yourself having to be, let me just ask this in the most common vernacular way possible. How often do you have to check a fool in reminding them that you don't speak for every Black person on the planet?
I mean, I will say that, when Black Lives Matter first kind of gained traction, so to speak, I had that one moment at work, and then it was pretty much known. Yeah, it was at work. Yeah, I'll admit it. I said it. It was a fellow teacher. And it was just, kind of in passing in a hallway. And like, I just said what I had to say and I walked away because that's just like my style. Like, I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I don't have time for that. I'm too hungry. I'm underpaid. Like, I don't have time for this. And so like everyone, and again, angry Black woman, everyone knows that I am a very unfiltered person. Like, sure, you need something, I got your back, whatever. I'm going to give you my opinion. And so fortunately that coworker, we're still good terms. She comes to me, asks questions, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're good. But everyone knows my viewpoint that's in my circle. And everyone knows I have no problem telling them if I need to. So either they accept it or they kind of skate around it. Either way, if they want to come to it, we can come to it.
But I feel like, though, and I know you jokingly were saying like the angry Black woman thing, but I feel like that's the catch-22. Like,
yeah,
someone comes and asks you your opinion and you give it.
Yeah.
You can't be villainized for that. I'm sorry. That is utterly ridiculous to me. Like, and we both have plenty of friends. I mean, but like, that's ridiculous to me. Like, someone says, Erica, what do you think about this demonstration? Which I'm just paraphrasing, but I'm just guessing like the same crap that people were asking me around that time and blah, blah. Yeah. It's like, and you tell them, and like, well, I understand what you're saying. No, fool, you interrupted my day.
Yeah.
You jacked up my zen and you asked me. So I can't be villainized if you came in my house and asked me the question. And so that's where I'm like, that's not fair to you. I'm not speaking for, you know me, I'm not speaking for you. Because I'm like, I would ask you, like, you know me, I ask you fully expecting 100% Erica. Like, I'm like, no, I need you. I need all of it. Like I'm not asking you to get half Erica. I'm asking because
we need the full experience.
Matter of fact, if I get half Erica, I'm like, look, just text me when you talk. Like hit me
give
back.
Give me your full speed.
Right. Like I know you busy, but when you can give me all of it, just unleash. But now, and that brings a point. As the civil unrest started to, and a lot of it, politically driven, because it was also, it was, again, I'm 48, was easily the ugliest election year I can remember ever. But as the civil unrest just started to happen, and people just became very comfortable in their hatred. And that's the only way. That's an opinion.
Yeah, it's true.
Before someone starts getting their panties in a bunch, but I'm like, just people became. My personal opinion is people became very comfortable in their hatred, in their racism, in their sexism. That's just how, in their misogyny. That's just how it was. And so when you started to see where everyone was like, oh, so-and-so got a parking ticket when they were 16, they deserve to be shot, killed, or what was she wearing? Then she deserved to get something that happened to her, this and that kind of crap that went on. Stop smirking. Because I know you. Look, She clapping. She's already clapping.
Anisha's about to come out.
So I love that so much. Karenisha. I love that. That's a hashtag for your ass. Karenisha. So like, as you started to see people just become so comfortable in just being hateful and spiteful, because hateful people find other hateful people. And that's what it was. They like living in that deep South and finding yourself as, like I said, a very educated, very, very, I'll be biased, very lovable, very incredibly awesome Black woman. Did you find yourself, I don't have a better term. Did you find yourself a little bit more fearful, or did you find yourself a little bit more like shoulders were back, chest was out, and you was like, I'm ready to fight a fool? Like, or was it a combat, or was it just both? Was it just, there were times it was both?
I'm only human, so I would say there was times they were both. I mean, I think every Black person in general can agree with the statement where there's some days you're just tired. You're just tired and you just don't have that fight. It's like, I'm tired of telling, again, back to teaching having kids, having time to tell you, put on your shoes. We are late. You are tired. You get to the point where you're tired of the fight. And so there's always just this imbalance. Like there's this time where like, and again, referencing back to here in Dallas and Texas, because, it's relevant to us today because an appeal has been filed with Botham Jean and Amber Geiger. Her appeal, I think it actually went on today, actually. So I don't know the day of the week, so we'll find out. Where for once, we actually saw everyone on the same page. Like, yo, that wasn't your apartment. He was sitting there eating ice cream. Like everyone's on the same page. So I feel like at that time we were like up and we're ready to fight. It's like, okay, our momentum's there. But then it's like something happened like behind the scenes, especially as we crept closer towards this election, right? And we knew that Biden would be the candidate for a Democratic Party. And like something happened where it's just like slowly out the woodwork, the termites finish eating the interior of the house and they're ready to come out the walls, out the cracks and just take out the whole kitchen. And so it's kind of like, wait a minute, that balance is a little off right now. And so, like you say, being here in Texas and Trump land, especially during time of the election, where you couldn't turn down a street without seeing Trump pin signs, it became very scary because, as you mentioned, people became very vocal and comfortable with their racism and with their gaslighting, that it was just like secondhand process. And then when you live in a place where like open carry is a thing, it just amplifies that, like, maybe I should kind of sit down and shut up. Like you have those days where it's like, maybe I should just kind of sit back, chill. I mean, we got justice a little bit, like they're going to pretend to file charges. So let's just sit down and see. But then there's more days where it's like, no. And that's why with everything that came, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, when I had the opportunity to go to a protest that was in my own neighborhood, my own community, I'm like, are we doing this in the suburbs? Like, hold up. Like, we have a chance to make a difference right here in the suburbs. And so since that day in June, it's been kind of boots on the ground for me, where it's just like, I'm not going to sit down and shut up. But yeah, I'm going to have days where I'm tired, where I don't feel like talking about it. Because how many times can we repeat the same story? I am tired, but yeah, there's some days I'm more fearful, and there's more days where it's just like, let's do it. Like, let's do it.
And what you said is so true, where sometimes you're like, how many times can we repeat the same story? Mm-hmm. And I think that's powerful. And I think when you find, when you touch upon this, when you're having your peers, whether it's coworkers, and I don't want to, I'm saying that lightly because I don't want to put you or anyone on the spot. So I don't want to pick on anybody, but like when you're having coworkers that are asking you these questions, and you and I have had these conversations because I know those questions that we're getting asked, like, and sometimes, like you said, we're tired, we're rolling our eyes, and we're like, can't you just do some damn research? Like,
yeah,
like Google like if you can Google bubble tea, you can look some shit up. But
yeah,
but like, how do you handle those times, living in the Deep South, how do you handle those times when you are tired, when you are exhausted, and someone just coming up to you and they got that one more question, and they're asking, and basically what they're asking you is like, how do you either define, or they're asking you, how do you unravel racism, like the history of racism? Like, go ahead, Erica. How do you solve racism? Like, oh, cool, thanks.
When I get asked those questions, and I've had enough, I like to think that, and I'm using air quotes case, you can't see this, as a Black woman, a Black person, that I'm quite articulate. And I can say what I need to say and use the right words where it's easy to digest for all palates. However, if I am tired, you're going to get, and this is partially because I'm just really petty. Like, let me just throw that out there. I am very petty. And I know what your triggers are. I will present the answer to you in the most raw way possible that I know will trigger everything that you hate. Because you already have your answer before you even ask me. Like your mind's made up. Like you're literally wasting my time. You straight up are. You're just checking to see if I've changed my mind and came over to your side. Like, this isn't a question. This is a check-in. And no, I have not changed my opinion. So you will get the most ignorant, unrefined answer you can possibly get. And I will make sure to include every term that I know you hate to go along with it, so that you will then leave me alone.
Are y'all listening? I hope to God, if y'all heard nothing else in this podcast, y'all heard the last 45 seconds to a minute and a half, because that was it. That was not, again, this goes against the speaking for every Black person thing, but that was probably it. That was probably it to a T. It's right there. Oh my God. So, like,
show's over. Case closed.
We're good. So even now, as we're it's May. It's almost halfway through 2021. We're seeing the wheels of justice turn slowly, but they're turning. And I'm trying to sound optimistic, but if you're looking at this video, you're seeing my eyes. If you're hearing this, you're probably hearing the tone of my voice, but I'm trying. So give me credit for that. As we're seeing this, but again, I do think the only change is I think some people are getting a little bit fearful to be as comfortable in their racism. The difference is, now it's like the cockroaches when you turn on the light in the kitchen thing. They're just hiding together, instead of standing in the light, which in my opinion is worse. But
yeah, I agree.
That's a whole different conversation. In the time like it is now, where it's like, okay, sometime, I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off. You have these mass shootings where these white guys are literally killing people on the spot and being taken away in handcuffs and being taken to jail nicely and quietly and shuffled away. And we've got 13-year-olds being shot in the chest, or people being, or 20-year-olds handcuffed and shot point blank. Black men. Sorry, maybe for those that have not picked up a newspaper, I should have specified the difference in the two of those scenarios. But for those of us that are educated, I don't have to explain the difference. How and let me understand. Let me preface something. I'm not asking you to like fix the world. Like that's not where I'm going with this. But explain to me your anger in that, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
I mean, I think, if I'm being completely honest, most of my anger at the end of it kind of relies on the peanut gallery. It's what everyone has to say after the fact. I'm not saying I understand those officers' actions and their justice. I'm not saying any of that. You know, I get the hardships that come from a stressful job. I get those split second decisions. It doesn't make it right. But also, I am also aware that a skin color impacted that decision. So that's not to go unnoticed. But it's the people who go out of the way trying to justify it as why they did this. It's because, oh, this person was this. Oh, this person was this. Oh, you don't understand this. Oh, you person was this. Oh, they did this. Like today, they're like, oh, George. I saw an article that was posted like in 2004, George Floyd was arrested because he tried to sell $10 worth of crack. You know, in 2004, were anybody's doing anything great? Like, does something that happened so long ago define who I am today? Do people never change? Are you guys always not posting?
And there's still due process. There's still due process.
Well, these are the same people who are, you know, posting in their kitchens, you know, live, laugh, love, join my multi-level marketing, you can change. But yet George Floyd can't change. Like, it's like, it's these same people who say change, unless you're Black and you're shot by the police. Than what you did 20 years ago didn't change who you were as a person. So it's all ridiculous.
I've said this to you privately, and I'll say it publicly. You're a damn genius, Erica, because because this goes back to the young man in the Wendy's in Atlanta. You're sleeping in your car. You literally you've been drinking. What is the one thing you're not supposed to be doing? You're not
driving your car.
So what are you supposed to be doing? Pull your ass over. And you still end up dead. Going back to the example you talked about, you're in your own house, eating in your own apartment, eating ice cream. What Breonna Taylor here is in her own house, her apartment, sleeping. Mm-hmm. Y'all looking for an ex-boyfriend. Mm-hmm. What else you like? But you're right. The peanut gallery gets on there. And they can find a way to justify all of those deaths. But meanwhile, the guy who killed the people in the churches, I think it was in South Carolina, that they stopped at Burger King. They stopped at Burger King because this fool was hungry. I was about to drop some bad words.
George Floyd couldn't breathe, but yeah, he's hungry. So let's go to Burger King after I just killed everybody. But the peanut gallery. Hungry. The peanut gallery will like to pick apart everything. Like that's I think that's the true problem is that peanut gallery picks apart everything and it amplifies these actions that these officers are taking. In a lot of ways, they're like, see, it wasn't just me who felt that way. So it's the peanut gallery. It's the problem. And like I said, and those are the roaches hiding together. That's them.
And I'm gonna throw a name out that you and I have texted days about because then you don't know the name because then our favorite is everyone Candace Owens. And
where's the log off then?
I'm gonna make Erica cuss. And then and, so for the listening and viewing audience, I will not do it because it's a private conversation. If I could go back and play and show some text conversations me and Miss Erica have had discussing Miss Owens from a year ago. So
I like that hoe. I mean, I'm
for those that for the uneducated that don't know, let me give a broad and I will bring it very myopic. For those that don't know, whenever there has been in the history of Black people, and Erica, please correct me, whenever any sort of injustices have happened, the people that have supported those injustices, whether it's been in a passive aggressive form or in a very aggressive form, they will find one or two Black people who, for whatever reason, have developed an Uncle Tom mentality so they can stay in the proverbial, and granted, this came from a literal, but they'll stay in the proverbial big house. And in 2020 and in 2021, the two Uncle Toms are my state's Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, and I don't even know. I don't know. I know the words I was about to use, but I'll just say YouTuber. Let me just go with that one because every other word I had was not going to work. Candace Owens.
Whew. Hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of 3 of that interview with Erica. Stick around for next week with the finale. Do better, be better. One love, guys.